I'm Andrew Wolfeck, and I'm here to give you a special report on Meek, the Mujahadin of Iran. Well, during this project, I'll tell you about the when, whys, and who runs this group. We'll start with the when. This group started in the early 1960s, mostly as a peaceful political opposition group in Iran. Over time, their message was not getting out, so they took more and more violent action upon themselves, and eventually led to assassinations of Iranian military members and assassinations of Iraqi government members. Now, over time, specifically in the 2000s until today, attacks have diminished somewhat in intensity. That's thanks to the lack of funding and a lack of outsider support of this terrorist organization. So where did this terrorist organization start, and where is it today? Well, they started in the western parts and the northern parts of Iran, and since Iran became hostile to this group and arrested many of its members, that forced Meek to flee. They fled to Iraq and parts of Southeast Europe, specifically Southeast France. From these two countries, they were able to attack Iranian interests and Iranian, the home country. So who is this terrorist group? They number in the thousands, so it's not a big group, but it's not your small potato either. They mostly want freedom of expression, freedom of the press to take over Iran. They want a more capitalistic society, and they want peaceful coexistence with their neighbors. Certainly, that's not the Iran of today that exists in the world. It's a very complicated group. They originally started out as a political group to unseat the Shah, but that was a hard task at hand, so they became more and more violent. Eventually, their goal was met by Meek and other terrorist groups gaining up in Iran, and they were able to force the Shah out of power. The Ayatollah Khomeini is the one who took power after the Shah. And now the Ayatollah Khomeini was a U.S.-backed leader, and Meek did not like that at all. Meek resorted to military violent attacks, as well as attacks against U.S. military in the Middle East. At this time, Meek was a hostile towards the United States as well as Iran. Now, Meek continued its anti-U.S. policy as well as anti-Iran and seized the U.S. embassy. That is, of course, a famous point in history. From this point, the Iranian government became more hostile towards Meek and forced Meek members out of the country. They eventually took arms up in Iraq and helped Iraq attack Iran during the Iraq-Iranian War during the 1980s. Now, at this point, the United States viewed Meek more favorably. Eventually, Meek was able to coordinate multiple attacks against multiple Iranian embassies, just showing their worldwide influence. So who was responsible for these attacks, and who led this group? Well, it's not really known about who started out this group, but today, these two leaders are suspected of being the masterminds behind Meek. So who thinks of this group as being a terrorist group? The UK, European Union, and the United States all think of this group as being a terrorist group. However, it is interesting to note that members of Congress in the United States wish to remove Meek from this standing because of their anti-Iranian stance. That is the anti-Iranian stance of Meek. During this time, Meek has provided the United States with numerous papers detailing Iran's nuclear capabilities and nuclear reach. And this, of course, is helping the United States bolster support against Iran. So mainly, in today's world, Meek is a not hostile nation to the United States, but they're not friends either. More of a neutral group to friendly group. A neutral friendly group to the United States government. So to sum up this group, yes, they do fit the definition of a terrorist organization. They do fall in the realm of a sub-revolutionary terrorism group. Here are my works cited sources for this project.